It's another water cooler Wednesday. And we're here for you.
Yes, we are.
Yes, yes, yes.
We ready to
So,
go.
yeah. Um,
Show my
t-
age.
today we were, I guess a lot of people, some people did, kind of fall behind on their mortgage um, during the last few years. And, foreclosures are going to start back up soon. And so we thought we'd talk about foreclosure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, what happens? How can you prevent it? What are some of the things you need to do? So, Lisa, when does the mortgage company really start to normally in normal times start to foreclose like on your property?
So if I were to address that, I think I would say after 90 days, they actually can. So if you have, excuse me, usually if you have about 3 payments that are missing, they actually can start the foreclosure process. I think
Yeah.
that's the legal way that it's supposed to work. Now, the way I've seen it work in reality, though, is that especially for this area, Cook County, um, you can have probably about 6 missed payments before they will actually file with the court. So, with the state of Illinois, we are actually what they call like a judicial state. So that basically means that for us, in order for someone to foreclose on our home, they have to take us to court. You have to go through a whole court proceeding. So to be real honest with you, in some ways that I think that actually kind of plays on our behalf as a borrower, the homeowner, because of the fact that like if you were to look up probably some of the stats on how long it's taken for foreclosures in Cook County, a lot of times it's taken about 2 years or more for a foreclosure to happen. So even though they may file it, like say, April of this year, 2022, but it might not be to sometime in 2024 that it's actually completed. And the good thing about that is that all of that time in between, you actually still have the opportunity to do something to save your home and be able to stay in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So, so one of the things that you know, I know it's hard. Nobody wants to talk about the F word. And it can be a pretty scary feeling, that
Mm-hmm.
everything that you work so hard and, because we're, in real estate, I'm a loan officer and you're a realtor, brokering realtor. Um, then we see how hard people work to get their houses.
Right.
We see the hoops that they jump through, the process that they, commit to, and then follow through all the way to the end, just to get to a point where life happened. Because sometimes it could be the death of a wage earner. It could
Mhm.
be, something happened. You lost your job. It could be any number of things.
Right.
Medical stuff. It could be medical stuff. I've seen people
Right.
had to kind of start life over because they had a major medical issue that happened that impacted everything, how they could work, what they could do, everything. So it's hard to look at the possibility of losing everything that you worked so hard for. So I think today, as we talk about the F word, what we really want to talk about is if there are ways to avoid it. How can you prevent the foreclosure? Because that's what probably, within that 2 year time span. And even before you get to that point. So let's just say, for example, you had a major incident. Something happened. Maybe you got sick. Maybe you got laid off, whatever. Something happened. Don't wait. Take action immediately. Immediately
Mm-hmm.
talk to your service. Immediately figure out a plan of action. Immediately say, okay, it's possible, that in 6 months I will still not have paid a mortgage and I can go into foreclosure.
Right.
Don't wait until it happens. If you see it coming, see it down the road, then say, okay, let me make a plan for this right now so that
Right.
I don't have to deal with this in 6 months.
I
Um,
think as humans, a lot of us, our first thing is to avoid, right? Avoid
yeah.
the confrontation, avoid the phone calls and not answer, things like that.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, yeah, they are the bill collector and they're calling you, But it might be of your best interest to answer the phone, pick up the
Yeah.
phone, because a lot of times they have some different programs that they might be offering you, asking some questions, just different things. And I think Lisa's going to talk about some of those things. I don't want to start talking about them, but
Yeah, it's okay.
they'll offer you different programs in order to help you with your mortgage payment.
Right.
Maybe forgive a payment, things like that. So, yeah,
And I just told somebody this earlier today. This didn't have anything to do with foreclosure, but it just had to do with what you know and what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
yeah,
I'm gonna say that again. You don't know what you don't know. So until you talk to somebody who knows, you don't really know. Like, you don't know what options are. You don't know what other people have done. You don't have any examples of, how these situations can be handled. Because 9 times out of 10, probably 9.99999 times out of 10, if you're dealing with the situation, then somebody else before you has dealt with the same
same
situation.
situation, right?
And so
Yeah,
because they had a way that they got through it, so there's a way that you may be able to get through it too. If you can apply some of the same things that were learned from that previous experience. So um, I would say, again, if it's something, we're going to take this kind of on a timeline. So let's just say that we're at the point where something drastic has happened. You don't think you'll be able to work for the next 6 months. You can't pay the mortgage. What do you do? First thing you want to look at is, can I refinance? Is it possible, that I can either take money out to, recoup some of the stuff, because equity is there. Like right now in this kind of market,
yeah,
most people have equity. So if you got equity, maybe take that equity out, pay down some other bills, figure out some kind of a plan on what you can do with that lump sum of money in order to keep yourself going and be financially stable as possible, over the next few months while you get back to whatever your normal is. So that's one thing you can think about doing. Another thing, you can actually do a loan modification or forbearance without being like far behind. So, for example, I know if you haven't anticipated, like, something just happened, but you haven't actually fallen behind yet, you can call the mortgage service and be like, hey, this happened. I don't anticipate that I'm going to be able to make the mortgage. Is there something that we can work out? And then talk with them about what those options might be. They may modify the loan for you. I have heard, again, we don't want to just put pie in the sky. We want to talk real stuff about what we actually know. So I have heard from several different sources for people doing modification that it seems to work better if you have fallen behind. Like if you have a payment or two that are missed, they say that
right.
they're more amicable, I
Willing,
guess you could
right,
say. Yeah, more willing to actually work with you because then they physically see, that you had something happen if you didn't pay the mortgage. So they physically see that. And so then, they can take that and more readily work on your behalf. But my understanding, the way it's supposed to work actually is that even if it has not happened yet, if you haven't missed a payment yet, you can actually say, and I've seen people that have done that as well. I've seen it from both sides. So
mm-hmm,
people can call in ahead of time and say, hey, I just had this happen. I know I haven't missed a payment yet, but I don't want to. What can we do?
right,
Um, Actually, I didn't think about this before, but you could do a deed in lieu. So a deed in lieu of foreclosure actually is an arrangement that you make with the bank. Basically, you give the house back. If you're in a position where you have someplace else where you can go, which you'll be safe and everything, and you don't want to fight for the house, you feel like it'd be better just to not have a mortgage. Okay, call at the bank and say, hey, I'd like to do a deed in lieu. In
right,
lieu of foreclosing up on my home, I'm going to give you back the deed to the house, so it's coming
yeah,
back to you, like a voluntary repossession. Can't you do that with a car? I've never done it, but can't you do
mm-hmm,
that with
yeah,
a car? Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
So it's the same
Now,
kind of thing.
yeah. Now, one thing as a realtor, what I'd say is before you do a deed in the lieu, speak to a realtor. Find out like what, and make sure you know how much equity you have in your home, things like that, because maybe we could sell the house prior to you losing the house. So,
Mhm.
whereas you just giving them the property back, I would say, yeah, if you don't have any equity in the house and there's no chance of you being able to sell the house
Yeah.
That I would probably do that. But then, but if you know, a similar market like right now, there's a shortage of homes. Maybe you could do a short sale. So I don't know if you were going
Hmm.
to talk about a short sale, but
You can
a
talk
short
about it. No, that's good.
right. So a short sale, there's a couple things. You could just sell the house, right? Say put the
Hmm.
house on the market and then walk away with the $20,000, $30,000 of equity that you have, and then maybe sit back. You know, you have an apartment for a little while, and then come back and purchase another house. That way,
Hmm.
you don't have a foreclosure on
Yeah, on your credit.
on your credit. You may have some late
And
pay. Right,
and if you do walk away with some money, pay up your rent for the year. So
right,
now you
yeah.
don't even have that monthly payment to worry about. And
You don't
a
have to
lot of
worry
times
about that.
landlords, if you pay up, 6 to 12 months in advance, they may even, charge you a little bit less.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So sometimes, and you know, and we might see this kind of going forward because we had a lot of people purchase houses over the appraisal value, or
Hmm.
you know, or we had a lot of people purchasing houses for higher than normal. And
Yeah.
so, let's say, for instance, the market, really does shift, and then the properties around it start to sell for less,
Yeah.
then that means that when I go to list your property, that you owe more than what your property is actually worth. So that could happen to you in the next, maybe that could happen maybe next 2 or 3 years down the line.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't see it right now because most of the time, most right now, everybody's property values or homes that have sold in the last 6 months have been
Hmm.
high. So
Yep.
this is probably a more time that you'll have an equity and would not have to worry about doing a short sale.
Yeah.
But a short sale is, and let me just kind of explain that because a little bit clear, because I'll say short sale and people are like, oh, okay, like they think that the property is going to sell short period of time, but that's not what
Oh,
short
that couldn't
sale.
be further from the truth.
Right, it's right. The name is totally opposite of what it actually is. Like a
Right.
short sale means that I owe more on my property than what I could actually sell it for. And so I want to sell my property. So the bank has to agree to the price that I've received an offer for. Right?
Mhm.
So I owe 130. My house is only can only sell for 120 or 100 or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So now the bank has to agree to that 100, and the bank's agreement takes a long period of time. Like
Right.
there,
But that's where the word short comes in though, because it's short of what they actually should be getting for it. It's short.
mhm,
So yeah.
right. So let's see. We do have a question. So let's just kind of answer. It says, just wondering if a person is almost at the point of foreclosure and the bank is not working with them, can you still keep the property? Do you need an attorney, or do you find one that is a
Pro bono.
uh pro?
Basically they'll work for free. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure how to fully answer that question because one, I don't know what you mean by the bank is not working with you. So
Maybe
if
they've
you're
decided that they're not going to give them any type of modification or anything. So right, because that would be a situation where the bank is not working with them.
okay, um, so if you try the modification, I would say try and try again. So let me give you an example of something. Let's say somebody's at the point where, again, close to foreclosure, but it hasn't actually been filed yet because that's what it sounds like. You said a person is almost at the point of foreclosure. So to me, that sounds like a list pending has not yet been filed with the local court. So if you're at that point and the bank hasn't approved your last modification request or whatever, apply again. Go to the HUD housing counselors and talk with them and see if you can get them to advocate on your behalf, because usually they're going to be the ones that can step in and help you in a case like that. You can get an attorney, but a lot of times what attorneys will do is probably help you to declare bankruptcy. So that could work. That could help. And if you don't mind having a bankruptcy on your record, after a couple of years, it doesn't really matter as much anyway, especially when it comes to lending in the arena of mortgages. So that's something that you could look at. But I want to share a story with you as well. Somebody who will remain nameless was at the point of foreclosure, but the papers had not been filed yet. So this person had went through several different times of requesting a modification, three or four, I think it was. Okay. And so each time they would say, oh, well, we didn't get all your documents. So we're going to have to deny the application for incompleteness. It wasn't complete. And so the person was like, okay, so that didn't work. So they went back again and said, hey, I didn't qualify for any of these programs. I want to know, can you look into they talked to somebody on the phone. Can you look into what do they call it? The COVID something, some kind of
Mm-hmm.
COVID grant or something like that. And so they said, okay. So then they went back and then lo and behold, now this person qualified. So then they sent papers in the mail. The papers in the mail the person received, and they wanted to do a principal reduction of $50,000. They wanted to take $50,000 off, and then what was going to happen is that $50,000 would become a balloon payment at the end of their mortgage. They extended the person's mortgage by 3 years and said, okay, instead of you the time you already have it on your mortgage, we're going to nix all of that, and we're going to have you start all over, and this time you're going to get a new 31-year mortgage in order to pay all of this, and you have to pay this $50,000, and we're going to increase your interest rate by 2.5%. So the person was like, I'm glad they approved me, but it seems like this is not really the best deal. So the person called up and said, hey, it doesn't seem like this is really a good deal. I thought that this would go down, not up. You're increasing my interest rate, and you're extending my mortgage and giving me a lump sum payment at the end. Is there something else that I can do instead? And so the person was like, well, actually you do qualify for this other program. What other program? So they got the new program. The new program was only $8,000 as the lump sum payment, no principal reduction, no 2.5% increase in the interest rate, and no extension of the length of the mortgage. So the person didn't have to start over again with an additional 3 years and have a 31-year mortgage. They kept the
Mm-hmm.
time that they already had in. So what am I saying? You need to keep trying. If you trying means that you have to call to talk to five different people, do it. Because if you really want, you ask, can you still keep the property? You want to stay in your home, then you need to do everything that you can to make sure that happens. So
Right.
that means don't get so frustrated that you
And
fall into.
don't give up.
Right.
Right.
Don't get so frustrated that you fall into what they want you to fall into, which is that you just don't do anything. Say, okay, well, forget it. You can just had a house. Don't
Right.
do that. But again, also keep in mind that even when you get to the point where they do file for the foreclosure, in Crook County, it's still taking about 2 years for that to even happen. So many things could change within that context of time. 2 years is a good amount of time. You could get back on your feet. You can go back and say, okay, well, we want to modify it now because these things are changed. This is different. This is what we can come up with. You still have options, I guess is what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying.
Right.
And if all else fails, you can always go and declare bankruptcy. And your bankruptcy, I'm not an attorney. I do play on the TV though. No, I'm just kidding. But you do have the option to consult with the bankruptcy attorney and see how those options would look for you. As far as being able to get something done. Because I know once you go under bankruptcy protection, they cannot continue to collect. They can't do that because that's one of the things that bankruptcy does. It puts something into place called an automatic stay. An
Right.
automatic stay means that no debtor can collect from you because you're under the protection of the bankruptcy court. So that in itself gives you some breathing room and some time to kind of figure things out. Sometimes all
Mm-hmm.
we need is just enough time to work through a problem and then we come to the solution that we need to come to.
Right.
So
So
hopefully that's at least a little bit helpful.
yeah, yeah. So we know it's a lot, but we're really here to say, like, don't give up. There's a lot of different programs out here. There's different options. Don't lose your equity in your home
Hmm.
because you just didn't know what to do, and so now you have this equity, so you've even lost your equity as well as your home. So, but you definitely can just ask them, ask for help, ask for different programs. Illinois has a program out right now actually for foreclosures. And so I would look up the Illinois Assistance Foreclosure Program that is out there. It just kind of started recently. So make sure you kind of check those things out because they don't really want to foreclose on you. They don't want to
Sometimes
take.
they don't.
Yeah, it depends.
Sometimes they don't.
Right. Sometimes they are. Right, right. It depends on where your house is. Right.
Right.
But and not to be funny, but keep trying, keep trying. And if
Yeah.
you get to the point where and you have equity in your house, give us a call, give me a call, and let's try to sell the house, and at least so that you can walk
So you can
away
walk away with something. Yeah.
right with something.
Yeah.
Don't wait till the last minute and let them take your home away. So
Right.
mhm,
Yep. Absolutely. Good advice. Thank you.
yeah. So,
So one of the things we didn't talk about is a forbearance because you can still do those. And I know, so I'm going to be honest, I'm not familiar with all the different variations of a forbearance. So I'm just going to tell you the traditional one and just tell you that there are different variations to this, you know. So a traditional forbearance is really that you take a 3 or like 6 month period. During that period of time, everything stops. You don't pay the mortgage. They don't report that you're not paying the mortgage. So any negative reporting that if there have been any before, then all of that is going to stop. But at the end of that forbearance period, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever, you now owe whatever it was that should have been paid, but just they don't tag on, late fees and things like that. They don't put anything extra, but the base mortgage amount that you should have been paying each month, that now becomes due as one lump sum payment at the end of that forbearance period. Now, because of COVID, because that's traditionally how it would work, but because of COVID, I know that they have come up with forbearance plans that are different. So it might be worth, again, talking to somebody that's in the loss mitigation department at your service and company and see what other options that they may be able to work out for you. I don't see anything wrong with you as a person calling in and say, hey, listen, it would be great if my mortgage could be this. If you could reduce the principal by $70,000, and if I had an interest rate of this, like if you came up with that stuff, it makes some suggestions to them because a lot of times we just, we're in an environment where we just kind of say, oh, what can you do for me? Well, give them some suggestions. This is
right.
what would help me. So I'm sending you this and saying this is what would, because of my situation, this is something that could work well for me. Can we do this? And then go, from there and kind of negotiate with them and see what they come back with. But don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid, or even to call somebody like me. I'm a numbers girl, so we can work through some numbers, and I can figure out and say, hey, look, this will work really good for you. Why don't you suggest to do this? It doesn't hurt to make the suggestion and just advocate for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. One other thing, I don't know if Lisa was going to mention was, do you have a 401k?
Hmm.
401k will give you some emergency fund to cover your mortgage if your mortgage is behind.
Okay.
Yeah. So you would submit a hardship to your 401k, and then they will send you the money for your mortgage.
Okay.
So
So
look
now,
into it.
yeah, I was gonna say that I don't know about. I know
No,
they do have a hardship. You
my
got it.
company has it.
Okay.
So the company I have my 401k under, they do have it. So
Okay.
it
Awesome.
is there. So check it out, and see. I'm sure that company isn't just the only one.
Right, right, absolutely.
Hmm. So,
Great.
right.
Okay. So I just want to mention a couple of other things too, because sometimes when you talk to an attorney, there may be some things that they will mention that they're looking out for. So not to get too legalese, but they do, like, your lender has to do everything the right way. Again, because we're an attorney state, so a lot of responsibility falls on the lender for the way things need to get done and how things proceed. So sometimes people have actually gotten off on a technicality because there is some kind of lender error, and then that negated, the filing of the foreclosure and allowed them to kind of be able to take back a few months and sort of start over. And also the lender, the lending company, the servicing company has to be entitled to bring a foreclosure action. So that's called a no standing. If they don't have that ability, it's called a no standing. But that's something that people sometimes look into as well. Usually your attorney would do something like that if you hired an attorney. And I have had some great experience personally, not for foreclosures specifically, but with pro bono attorneys, because that was one of the things that was mentioned in the comment and the question a little bit earlier was, can you get a pro bono attorney? Yes, pro bono attorneys, obviously, that just means that they're advising you or working for you at no charge. Um, so if you can find someone, maybe, I don't know, through legal aid or something like that, but usually those kind of programs, you need to qualify. So like if you're not working or, you have income that's below a certain level, like the poverty level or whatever, then usually they use those charts and census tracts and things like that to kind of figure out who that they'll be able to help and provide their services to, because typically that is income based.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. All righty.
So I think that was really it for me. As far as, but I do want to stress though that most of the things they're doing right now, especially when it comes to COVID, COVID hardship type things and stuff, they are directing you toward the HUD housing counselors. So you can just look something like that up on the internet. Just do a Google search for it, and that might be something that would be helpful for you. And then you can always get in contact with us as well. Well, I don't know, Dion, if you want to take that on or not. I'm okay
Yeah.
with you guys calling me um,
Right.
and seeing, what things might be, good to look at or figure out or whatever, and anything that we can do to help. We don't want to just get you into a house. We want to help you stay in it. So,
Right. Right. So we hear about educating, and so sometimes it's not always the best. It's not always the joyful. We gotta also kind of help out with some of the hard stuff too. So
hmm,
always let
absolutely.
us know if you have any questions. We may not be the right one to answer the question, but we can
Right.
direct you to the people that we've seen and what we've worked with in order to get you to where you need to be. So
That we can do.
yeah,
Yes, we can.
and answer the phone. So pick up the phone, they calling, just answer it, and
Right.
and
Right.
sometimes and just to say, I don't have it, I'm unable to pay right now, and what can you do for me in order to resolve this issue?
Right.
How
And
can
be
you?
persistent. Be
Right.
persistent, because that story I gave earlier, I was kind of surprised that, at the end it was like, well, why didn't they just send that to begin with? If the person qualified for both of these programs, why didn't you send the one that was more favorable? So don't get caught up into this thing thinking that the mortgage company is your friend. You know,
Oh yeah.
you keep
Right.
you keep pushing forward, to get what you really feel is the best thing. If you get to a point where you can't push anymore and you feel like they're doing the best they can do, okay, I get that, accept it. But again, you never know until you say something. If this
Right.
person hadn't said anything and called back and was like, this don't really seem like a
This
good
just don't
deal,
sound right. Right.
they never would have known, because the mortgage company was not going to send out anything to say, hey, we got a better deal for you. They weren't doing that. So the call had to be made in. So yeah, so I just say be persistent, be persistent. And if you're unsure or dissatisfied or frustrated, maybe you should give us a call and let us get you in contact with somebody who can help.
Right. So we're here every Wednesday,
Every
right?
Wednesday.
Just for you guys. So make sure you follow us on Water Cooler Wednesday. So we always share important information there as well. And if you need to get in touch with Lisa, you got some questions that she might need to answer for you. This is her number. You can give her a call. Um, Lisa, House Money Mama.
House money, mama.
And this is my number if you need my assistance in selling or buying a home, or even sharing contact information with you. You can give me a call as well, and I can definitely try to help you to at least get to the right people. So, all
Yeah.
right.
Awesome.
So
Thank you, everybody.
thank you. Talk to you later. Bye.